This is October 17th, 2020, and this is a bit of a thing about Schwab problem that I ran into that they have not made good on, yet it was their responsibility. And I have tried 5 times now to get reconciliation with this matter, that they had a problem with their option chain and perhaps other aspects of their real-time data providing to people who were trading that was causing people financial loss, as it did me, and they have not made good on. And they've been well informed now for 5 times. And so I thought it was time to make this public because I think other people should know. Schwab has had ample time, been amply informed, and has not responded in a responsible manner. And I'm going to substantiate this as we're going forward right now. As you see here, this is Street Smart Edge for a Macintosh desktop, and this is my account. You see here a graph of the Shopify stock, 15-minute graph, and the colors and Bollinger Bands and everything. And here you see an option chain for puts. Again, this is expiration 10/23. Here's the problem down here. You see a 9/8. There was a trade for an expiration date of 9/11. And I have called Schwab. Is it possible to get the historical data to substantiate what had happened? And they said no. They would have to go to Bloomberg or somebody to hunt up historical option chain values. Well, briefly, or not so briefly, what happened was on the 8th of September, I had a few $100s in my brokerage account as I was trying out a new idea, and I was going to trade on the morning surge, which their brokers really don't like. They thought I needed education about, and they'd say, well, we have given you cautions and all that kind of stuff, and trading options, and the trading is thin, and this, that, and other thing, and trying to educate me and justify the fact that I caused my own loss, that kind of thing. And for one of the traders, I said, how old are you? And he said, like 39. I said, well, I just want to clue you in that I've been trading options for longer than you've been on this earth, fella. Okay? Yeah. And they said, oh, the market orders are risky, and this is what happens. No, it doesn't. I've never had a problem. I've always traded market orders and at all times of the trading sessions. Okay? You use products under the conditions that you're familiar with, that you're comfortable with the objectives that you're trying to obtain. And there's nothing wrong with using market orders if you use them under certain conditions and you have real-time data. See, if you have real-time data, if you have real-time data that's accurate, it is not a problem. But in this case with Schwab, the real-time data was not functioning for some reason. And when I set up the trades ahead of time, like 10, 15 minutes before the opening, so I could execute them when I wanted to, just with a click, the price of the I was doing a put and a call, back to back for protection, and with the put I had it in, and it was running around $1.25 or something under. They have a way to preview the order or whatever here, and that was okay. So I set that aside, and when the opening came, right, I executed the put, and it said on the graph like 90 cents or something, right? And down here, you see what came through. I mean, within like a second and a half, it came through at 7.80. All right. In other words, the option chain was not showing anything of this amount. If the market were in session right now, because it's now 4:45 on a Saturday afternoon. So, you're not seeing the Christmas tree lights here of the trades going, bid and ask, changing last, and all this stuff going on. You see it all over the place right here. And so, you're supposed to be getting real-time data. In this case, I placed a trade in order to take advantage of the morning surge, and I did executed the put, and I was just about ready to execute the call, and the protective call and protective put together back to back, and then the note came through on the buy to open 780, and I did not have $780 in the account for trading at that point, right? And so it swamped the account, and I was not able to put the protective put trade in. I mean, the call trade in, right? Well, I called Schwab and said there was something wrong with your option chain in real time because it's not recording this, right? See, and you see this. It's registered here as a verifiable transaction deducted from the account. But it did not show up as the last trade, ever. It never showed up as the high of the day, you see. And basically, the numbers should have shown something more like about here, right? The high of the day, 740, should have shown up here. The last trade should have been here. It didn't, see. And so as I notified Schwab, something was wrong. And they said, well, things get going, and you don't know. You made a market order. You agreed to get anything that came along, and I did not agree to have false information in front of me. See, Schwab basically had this option chain here that wasn't functioning, and it misled me with information. Right? Well. I called a couple of times about this, and one of the times one of the guys said, well, if you'd called us right away, we could have busted the trade, right? Well, I said I did, and so he kind of backpedaled on that one, and of course they didn't bust the trade, did they? See, and so I called a couple of times. I said, what is wrong? Of course they never answered that question. They never have answered the question of why is this here at 780 as a verifiable transaction, and it did not show up on the option chain ever? See, something is wrong. Well, they have never answered that question, and it's a good question. Well, why haven't they answered that question? See, well, it turns out they can't verify it. See, I asked for the historical data so I could verify if in fact it ever showed up as the high of the day for this expiration date for this strike price and this date, and they said they can't. I just called yesterday or this morning, and they said they can't. Okay, so, well, given the stink that I've made about it, you'd think they'd do something about this. Well, okay, so here's what they did. Here's what they did. They get it over to a supervisor, right, after like my fourth conversation with these people. And he comes back and he says, here's what we'll do, Sean. Look, we will, bust the trade, okay? We'll, negate the trade. Well, see, okay, prior to this, okay, they were telling me that since my count was overdrawn, right, and I'm not putting funds back in to bring it up to par, which of course I'm not going to do, or I wasn't going to do because, they've absconded with the money that I gave them, and now I'm going to put good money after bad into Schwab's hands again. No, it's not going to happen. So they started saying, well, you haven't done this. It's been so many days, and we have to, according to regulations, we're going to have to restrict your account and censor your account and do that and another thing, right? So, it's their fault. It's their mistake. It's their malfunctioning of their option chain. Do you want to trade Schwab? Given the difficulty they have, and they can't even tell when or why or how to fix the problem. In other words, with this one option chain strike price, how do you know how many other option chains it affected, or their stock or their stocks, literally. In other words, if you had Amazon, you see at 3,200, at the difference of this is about 6 times what it showed, right? It came back. I mean, then you would think you think you're gonna put in a price, for Amazon. So it's about 3,400, right? Well, okay, you're going to get a bill out of these guys, out of Schwab, for about $20,000 instead of $3,000, right? 30 grand. Yeah, that's right. That's a 6 times, more than 6 times. You're going to get charged, and it's not going to show. You're going to put in a buy order according to the $3,400. You would say, and this is okay, and it would come back within a second or two at 20,000, and they'll deduct that from your brokerage account and tell you to pay it, or they're going to, they won't allow you to have the account anymore, right? This is exactly what they did to me, okay? This is exactly what they have done, okay? And it was their malfunctioning of some kind. Maybe that 780 was for a dishonest broker that they're dealing with, in the market somewhere. Maybe, and he didn't want to make it visible on the trades for the day. Maybe. Is that why they don't want to look into it? They don't want to admit they have this kind of relationship with people, their brokers? I don't know. Why don't they want to say that something was wrong? Well, they can't verify it. Well, what is going wrong? See, nobody seems to know. Do you want to trade with Schwab when they can't figure out, and they're charging people 6.5 times what the data says that they say is true data that you can rely on? Do you want to trade with these people? This is what happened to me, okay? And so their supervisor came back. He says, "Here's what we'll do, Sean." Okay, I said, "Okay, let's hear it." He said, "Look, we'll stay the trade. We'll bust the trade." Okay, well, he should have done that with the beginning. But he said, "And then what we'll do is, since you agreed, according to the estimate that you previewed, at $1.125, we'll just give you the loss at 125 because now it's expired." And you can't do anything about it, so we'll just give you a loss of 125, and we'll call that good. Well, I said, okay. And the reason I said okay is because it immediately drew my account into a positive balance, see? Because they got rid of the huge negative, and I only had a small negative, and that gave me a positive balance, okay? So it got me out of the restrictive problems that Schwab was foisting on me because of their lack of I don't know what, I mean, you would just think customer service, they would have taken care of this and stopped giving me lectures about I shouldn't be using market orders when I've been doing that without a hitch for 40 frickin' years, and I should be using limit orders. Well, thank you very much. I don't want to use a limit order, and I don't want to use a trailing stop order either. Okay, I set one up to see what it would cost. I don't want to do that. Okay, do you mind? Leave me alone. Okay? It's none of your freaking business, apparently. Apparently you guys don't even know the business. So, so it took me into a positive, and that kind of relieved that situation, just lost the battle, folks. I lost the battle, but I ain't backing down from the war, as you can see. Because, the public is going to know about this, because I can't have some little old lady or somebody else my age, and their retirement fund, and they think they're going to buy Amazon at 3,400, and they get charged with 20,000, and then Schwab says, well, we don't know what's wrong. It was probably something you put in a market order, and by golly, that thing just was in a steep free fall of can you imagine something going from $1 to 7.5 in less than 2 seconds? I mean, that is a free fall market that is beyond belief, isn't it? You see what I'm saying? But that is what Schwab thinks happened. Either that or it was one of their associate brokers who had her thumb on the scale. I don't know, but I know that I didn't see the relevant data that I needed to make a responsible trade. And so they came back and said, well, you agreed to buy this at 125, so we'll just do that and call it good. I said, okay. Well, now you see, here's the deal about that. If I had seen it at 1.25, as you see here, you have a lot of information. Not only do you have a chart for what's happening with the price of the stock, whether it's going in a trending or jumping or that kind of thing. You have a number of columns here that yes, you may be at 145, but here's your bid at 1.5. This is and your one here. This is going to tell you a little something about the direction of the value of the stock. And do you want to put in a buy order when it's doing this? See, it's down to its low. It was here. The high was 110. Previous close was 1.5. This does not look like it's in a healthy trend, does it? If you're trying to get this to increase in value. See what I mean? And so the fact that you agreed to buy this at 115, if you don't see the rest of this stuff here, you don't really know whether it's an appropriate time to buy that or not. And that's the whole deal about when they offered me a 1.25 loss. That you got to put things. We're going to wind things back. I'm saying I've got to see the rest of the option chain here. You see, this is how I customize this. Is I want to see the bid and the ask, of course. I want to know the last trade. I want to know the last trade relative to the low of the day and the high of the day, and the change from the open. See, right? And the open and the previous close, and also the volume. See, I want to know a lot of this stuff here so I can make a educated guess about where this is going or if it's going not. Okay, right? And this is you take something like this guy here. Look at the bid and the ask, but look at the previous close, 15.25. I mean, are you gonna buy this thing when it's tanking and it's only 50% of what it was? I mean, this is not a good idea. You see, but this is the whole deal about them offering me and saying, well, you agreed at 1.25. Well, I said, yeah, I agreed at 1.25 because I was looking at some stuff that was relevant here, right? But now you're telling me I'm going to look at I'm going to make 1.25 on any conditions. No, you haven't specified those other conditions yet. But it did get me out of hock with their options qualifications. But it didn't get them out of hock with my qualifications that you will not treat me like this as a broker, and the public is going to know what you've done. Okay, I think this is a very relevant, and the public can see right here that this is 780, and it was supposed to be. See, it was supposed to be around 90. See, this is what they put in later. See, they negated this trade, and they say, well, we'll give you this one at a loss. And you have to realize that if I had traded at 1.25, you see, I'd have money there that I could have put the complementary trade of a call in. Now, this is just a typical position. You set up a position of a call and a protective put together at the same time. And you can do it with a market order. And of course, you want a market order. The market simply does not free fall from 1 to 780. It simply does not do that. And I don't know what happened with those guys because it was not obvious. It was not obvious on the chain here, right? And it wasn't the last trade there. It wasn't under the high. It's clear that the option chain was misfunctioning. It was misrepresenting what the market was actually doing. I'm perfectly comfortable using market orders if I can tell what the market is. I've got real-time data and reliable real-time data on the market, and I did not have that. And Schwab cannot verify anything, nothing. The only thing that they can say is, here you have it, oops, came in at 780. That's the only thing they can say. And all I can say is, oops. All I can say is, oops. To you too, okay? You are now in the public domain, and I'm making this obvious to people. They're going to try and trade Schwab or even invest with Schwab, okay? That when the data that you see on their charts here or whatever, may not be reliable. Here, it was not reliable, clearly. And I brought this up in a timely manner. They said they could bust the trade. Well, they didn't, okay? And I'm still fighting this, okay? Now, it's not very much at this point, but I'll be damned if I'm going to give these people 100.25 when it was their fault. I don't know why it happened to them, but it doesn't really matter. They are responsible for this. In one way or another, they are responsible, and I don't know how. Let them figure it out. I don't think they can figure it out now. It's been so long, and they say they can't access the option chain. I don't know. I do know that this buy to open down here was in no way visible about what was going on here, and it never was. See, it never was. And then they said, well, your option would have expired. It's been a couple of weeks now. I said, well, thank you very much. Well, it's been a week, right? It was on a Monday and it was expired on a Friday. Well, everybody knows the devaluation that happens in an option when it comes up to the last week. Well, I know that. Well, there's a reason to trade that. Not everybody's going to do that. Not everybody's going to trade the open surge. Not everybody's going to. Well, I don't care. You trade what you want. I was experimenting with a particular model that I wanted to find out about. And I didn't find out about it. Really wasn't able to really because I couldn't place the appropriate trades because of what it got swamped. It got swamped by this thing right here. And then Schwab has just not worked with me at all on this to realize that when like the second or third time they called, the agent said, well, if you'd called in time, we could have busted the trade. See, and I said, well, I did. Yeah, I did call in trade. You bet I did. When I saw that ticker, the fulfillment ticker come across it at 780, you bet I called. But they didn't do anything. See what I mean? They haven't done anything. They should simply have busted this trade and not done any of this crap here. Okay, just look. Don't know what happened, folks. We don't know what happened. You want to say that? That's fine with me because I don't know what happened. But I'm damn sure I wouldn't have put in a 1.25 trade with this kind of numbers. With this kind of numbers where it's tanking by 50%, and this was tanking by 7 times that amount. Okay, not just double, 7 times. Who is going to put in a trade against that type of free fall going against them? I mean, Schwab. I don't know if those guys, do they actually trade options? Do they actually trade stocks at all? Are they just? I don't know. But again, the question is, look, here's the problem. It may be only a couple hundred, like $700, $800 to me. You see, but you've got to realize that I'm doing options, and some people are doing stocks long and short, and you'd be looking at, a 20 grand bill when it looked like there was a 3 grand bill, which you would agree to. And, it's just, I don't know that you want to do that. I'm just telling you, it's up to you. But I am going to say that, as you can see, I think I've presented what happened to me very clearly. And again, I've asked them to, why I can't figure out why they didn't just bust the trade. Really. Honest to God. Look at the crap that they've done here. Just bust the frickin' trade. Nobody knows what happened, but apparently the information here wasn't relevant. It wasn't timely. It never showed up in the last trade. It never showed up on the high. What was going on? I don't know. The value of the thing here it is. Going by half, and it went by 7 times. And they didn't do anything about it. See what I mean? They've continued to say they don't know what happened. Well, if you don't know what happened, why don't you just bust the trade? Why is Schwab? What is going on with those people? Do you want to trade with people who are doing this?